Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Quick Watercolour Birds. I'm Tom, thanks for joining me in the studio. This is going to be a really fun one. So I know that these videos have been really popular. I really enjoy filming them. I've had loads of requests. This is a request as well. Because of having to record a separate intro and outro and all of that stuff, I haven't been doing them as much as I would like to. So I've decided to simplify the videos in an attempt to produce more of them. So they're all going to be filmed just straight from above. I'm going to talk you through the materials, I'm going to narrate the painting as I go, and that's going to be it basically. So today we're going to be painting a Red Cardinal, really fantastic painting subject because of the colours, and also in many ways a very simple painting subject, but we need to keep it simple, especially at this small scale. I'm only working on this sort of size, which is 15 by 23 centimetres, so it's not a big size at all. This particular paper is 100% cotton paper. It's by Baohong. It's a Chinese brand. Really lovely brand, very forgiving. Really enjoy working on it. I'm going to work with 3 brushes, although you could probably get away with 2. I'm going to use my Jackson's Raven mop in the middle. It's got a big body but holds lots of water and pigment but comes to a fine point. And then I'm going to use 2 smaller round brushes. These are a little bit stiffer, a little bit more rigid. They hold less water and pigment and therefore a little bit more controllable. These are ProArte Prolene. All of the materials will be listed below in the description, and I will quickly talk you through the colours. I'm going to use New Gamboge Yellow, which combined with my 2 reds that I'm going to use will give me some lovely orange colours in the chest here. I've got a cooler Quinacridone red, which is really bright and clean, and that will give us some of the more purpley colours here, and I just really love it as a colour. If I need a little bit more punch of red, I'm going to use the semi-opaque Pyrrole red to kind of slot in there, give us a little blast of colour. And then we always need a blue to balance colours and also to produce some darks. So that's going to be my Prussian Blue mixed with either of the reds and a touch of the transparent yellow. It's going to give us some really lovely deep darks. That's it, very simple palette. Before I start, I just want to say you can find the line drawing and the copyright-free reference photo over on my Patreon page. You don't have to sign up to be a Patreon to have both of those. However, if you would like to join me over on Patreon for full-length tutorials, narrated time lapses and a few other little bits and bobs, great. I've got some Zoom demos coming up now that we're moving into autumn. There's some new dates going to be announced anytime. Check the links for my website below. And some really exciting news. I've got a new watercolour online school which will be launched in the spring next year, kind of late winter. You can see also the links below for a place where you can register your interest for that. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff to come very soon, so you kind of want to be on board with that now to get an idea of what's going to happen. I'll talk you through the drawing. Let's dive in. So in some ways the drawing is very simple. We've got this big egg shape for the body and then almost like a funny little triangle stuck on top. It's always relating the size of the smaller head shape to the body shape, making sure that they're correctly proportioned with each other. Great ways to do this are to use the head shape as a unit of measurement for the body, or vice versa. How many times does the width of the head fit into the width of the body, the height, etc. Beyond that, I'm always looking for the tilt of the big shape. So the tilt of the egg shape does something like that. The head is a little bit more square and looking a little bit flatter than the body. And then beyond that, I tend to break it up into then smaller shapes further still. So a little triangle for the beak kind of stuck on. Really look where the eye is in relation to the point of the beak. It's at an angle like that, not flat. That gives the gesture of the head. And again, look for little reference points like drop plumb lines down or horizontal lines across. Like if I draw a line across from the beak horizontally, I kind of hit where the tail meets the wing. If I drop a line down from the front of the forehead, that forehead is ever so slightly out past the widest point of the chest, and so on and so forth, kind of like that. So let's dive into some painting. Let's just go for it. Okay, so we're going to start with the lighter colours. That's going to be the New Gamboge. Nice clean brush. Still got some blue in it from another painting, so I need to get rid of all of that. Just a New Gamboge to start with. Fairly watery, and just a quick couple of hits of the brush just to get something down on there. I want to leave lots of whites of the page to give it that kind of fresh look. We don't have to worry about the black area yet. Nice and simple. And we're going to come into the beak as well, and we're going to leave a nice little highlight on the beak. Do something like that, and then I'm going to bring in a little bit of the the Pyro Red, and we're going to start just dropping that in there, kind of almost slicing it in and letting that colour kind of mix. Go a little bit stronger in consistency, give us more of an orangey colour, and we're just going to drop that in there. Do need to get that kind of working. And let's go Quinacridone Red. It's going to give us a slightly cleaner red, I think. That's the problem with the Pyro, is it is quite a an opaque colour really relative to the Quinacridone. So just going to drop that Quinacridone Red in. And then now that I've got all of that in place, I want to slice in some really neat Pyro Red. So I'm going to pop that in as like a really strong, vibrant red dark where we want it. So I want a little shot of red dark on the back there. And as we move to the underside, definitely going to get more kind of intense with our red. Just very simple brush strokes. Don't judge it too harshly at this stage. I'm talking about your own painting in particular. And don't judge mine too harshly either. And we're going to come in here with that Quinacridone Red, and we're just going to let all of those colours kind of flow together. There we go. So we've got that kind of intense orange on the chest there, which I really like. Just amplify that a little bit. And then we're going to move into the back area. So I'm going to use predominantly Quinacridone because we're getting to that kind of darker back colour here. And again, very simple brush strokes. And we're going to use the warmer red on the tail here. Just a simple quick brush stroke there. And we're going to come down into the legs. And now we can place colours into all of this. Let's add a little bit of blue to the Quinacridone to create the legs. Create the legs in a very, very simple way. I'm going to bring that down into, make that leg a little bit larger. Feels a bit small at the moment, that's better. And make this one a little bit larger. I'm purposely letting all the colours run now, so a little bit more of a thicker consistency of paint. The Quinacridone with the Prussian Blue, that's going to give us a beautiful colour, and I'm going to start just dropping that into a few places. Something like that. Nice simple brush strokes, nothing too complicated. We are going to bring in some shadow in other areas, but really that's it for the kind of the start point. And I'm just going to go a little bit darker at the top here, almost like the head is casting a shadow over the body in that area. And then we're going to come in a little bit stronger with our red here and just bulk out the back of the head there with that lovely kind of strong opaque or semi-opaque red. There we go, a little bit more broken brushwork just to give it some more texture. And really letting those colours flow. And then what I want is a really strong, let's drop down in size away from the mop and come to the smaller, the size, this is a size 8 round. I forgot to say what size they were in the intro. There you go. I've kind of lost that highlight there, I accidentally painted over it, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to come back in and pull out the highlight, and not quite where I intended it to be, but it's still perfectly fine. And if we come in with a little bit of kitchen roll, just going to pull that out. Okay, we're now going to come into, I think, like just a slightly, almost like a browny colour for down here. For that, for the branch, and that branch is going to come up here as well, and just something nice and simple. I'm going to start taking some of the Quinacridone red now and placing it into this area here. It's Quinacridone red, and there's a little bit of the Prussian has crept in, not much, and that's going to give us some of the darker tones in this area. What I don't want it to do is bleed into the beak area too much, but as it is, we're kind of fine there. Right, just before it dries, I just want to get in. I'm using the paint quite neat here. By neat, I mean very thick. Love that little marking there, and just very simple over the top of the eye. A little bit wet still around the eye, so that's kind of nice. That works. We're going to come back in and do a little bit more with the eye in a wee bit, and just here and here. Let some of those colours do that. Okay, while that beak is still wet, we could just bump up the intensity of the lower part. Nice and simple, and suddenly we're starting to get a little bit more form and shape to things. That happens as soon as we start to put in our little extra shots of tone. Like, you know, you start to go from just one tone to 2 or 3 tones, and we start to get a sense of form and roundness to things. Okay, so we are well on the way with this one already. This was always going to be a very quick one. That's kind of I want to make some slightly longer length and then do the odd kind of really quick one as well. And I'm going to try and release a few more over the coming weeks than I have been doing. So little shots of colour in there. I'm going to get more Quinacridone red, and I want to create sort of the illusion of shadow on the underside here. I just need to get it nice and dark, but not too dark, sort of a medium sort of shadow colour, and use that to give a little bit of shape to the underside there. And I do want a little bit more shape in this area, so I'm going to bring down the shadow down the back there, and a little bit of shadow creeps out of the corner of the eye there, and just little hits of shadow here and there, like describe the shoulder a little bit more. And that's all got a nice feel to it. It's kind of really just bringing the beak to life, and we might splash in a little bit of a background, bringing the eye, sorry, to life. So just need to pad out a couple of areas a little bit more, but I think a little bit more size in the tail back there, and maybe a little bit more in there. Just giving it a little bit more size in places, really. Not too much though. And we're really at finishing the eye off, so we're going to come in with a nice sort of browny colour, a bit of the reds mixed with a bit of the yellow and a touch of the blue, sort of all the colours mixed together. But because they're all transparent, minus the pyrrole, they give us just a lovely kind of brown colour. Very gently just kind of pop into that eye area. We keep that really simple. I don't actually think it needs to be any more complicated than that. I thought we might make it a little bit more finished than that in the eye, but actually it really doesn't need it. What I do want is just a couple of extra shots of dark in places. And just a little bit more dry brush stroke. I think that's it. We don't want too much more. I'm going to go a little bit darker under there just to give a bit more form. I wonder if he's a little bit straight on the bottom here, so I'm just going to round him off a little bit. That's better. And I think we'll just splash in a little bit of colour for the background. So I'm going to come back to my larger brush. We come to a new part of the palette. I think we have to create a new part of the palette. And I just want to create a nice clean sort of green colour. Just a little bit of the, yeah, that's quite nice. A little bit more of the blue, but also some water so it doesn't go too dark. And I think we're going to just Very, very simple background. Really doesn't need to be much. So that's kind of the base layer of the background. We might drop in a few more yellows in places. Yeah, a bit more of a warmer yellow is nice. So a bit more of the new Gamboge there, and then we're also going to drop in some darker tones as well and start making that background feel a little bit more expressive. Just more Prussian Blue in there. It's going to give us a nice rich dark. I think we'll use a nice little dark here just to trap a little, or use a little bit of negative shape, because we don't have a huge amount of negative shape here from the background. So I'm just going to use a little bit here. And we'll just bring that into a little bit more shadow down here, just for the fun of it. I think that's got a nice kind of expressive feel. It finishes the painting off nicely, and I think just like the hint of a very distant branch or two, just to give it a bit more context. Doesn't need much, just some nice little expressive brush strokes. And I think that's it. There we have our fun little Red Cardinal. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. As I said, a really fun, quick little one, and I'm going to come back and do some slightly longer ones, some slightly more detailed ones as well. But I wanted to get the ball rolling with these new ones in the series and just get some videos out there. So you can find me in all the links in the descriptions that I mentioned before. Please do consider subscribing for lots more of these videos to come, and I'm going to be starting to look at portraiture and wildlife a little bit more and continue with the watercolour bites, so I've got lots planned. Don't forget to hit the like button. Feel free to leave me a comment. This was a request, so I am taking requests. I've got a long list, but I'm happy to add more to that as I go. And also, these paintings will be for sale. Link in the descriptions. They're great fun little paintings. Until next time, guys, happy living, happy painting, and I will catch you in the next episode.